The MV Commercial British Truck Racing Association Championship 2019.
Hello and welcome along to Snetterton circuit for the anti-penultimate event in the 2019 MV Commercial British Truck Racing Association Championship. Plenty of news for you, so let's go down into the paddock and find out what's happening.
Before we go to the paddock, qualifying shaped up like this. David Jenkins on pole in Division 1 from Ryan Smith, Richard COLLETT a superb third, and then Mark Taylor from John Neal and Tom O'Rourke. In Division 2, Paul RIVETT set the pace in qualifying. Steve Powell second, championship leader Luke GARRETT in third with John Bowler in fourth.
David, congratulations on pole position. Splendid start to the meeting.
Yeah, we had a difficult day yesterday with the mixed conditions in testing, and then we were doing some tyre evaluation and bits and pieces, so really pleased with that performance from qualifying, yeah.
The race fans just see the 2 days racing, but there's a lot more goes on, you know, in the engineering workshop before you get here, plus testing and then a gruelling weekend.
Yeah, we've had a particularly mixed up week this week. We've obviously with my sponsorship involvement with MV Commercials and the ever improving relationship with Ryan next door at the moment, I've ended up prepping all 3 trucks this week, Ryan's, Tom's and my own, and with engine changes and engineering changes and all sorts of things. So we had a very busy week this week.
Ryan Smith, championship leader, and a big story this weekend, a different truck.
Yeah, Tom O'Rourke at MV Commercials kindly lent his truck to still compete in the MV British Truck Racing Championship, so a big thank you to Tom O'Rourke and his team. They've made sure we got on track, and yeah, we've just been out in qualifying, a little bit different to what we used to and a few teething problems, but Dave Jenkins just did a good job in qualifying, so yeah, we've got a little bit of a fight this weekend, I think. So you know, we've got a new truck that'll be out next week, and it's exciting times, especially for the British Truck Racing Championship as well. So, apart from a bit of man flu, today would have been a perfect day. But again, a massive thank you to Tom O'Rourke at MV Commercial for putting us on track this weekend.
The Division 2 boys hit the tarmac first. That was a great start by Steve Powell. Paul RIVETT dropping back. Problems though as they came through the hairpin for the first time. John Bowler got the lead initially, then dropped back. Steve Powell taking the win. John Bowler second, Paul RIVETT in third. In Division 2, good start by David Jenkins, but it was championship leader Ryan Smith who worked his way through very quickly to take the lead, as Richard COLLETT, having qualified third, had his problems. Smith taking the win, David Jenkins in P2.
Steve, that looks like hard work on this circuit, but a great win, well done.
Yeah, I quite enjoy this. I never used to like it, but it is good here. We had a few years here where we just weren't competitive, and it's a long way to be driving around mid-drift and not battling with anyone. So we done well here last year, so we knew we had a good chance. I was a bit lucky on the start with Paul, and John outbroke himself, so really good start to the weekend.
On to the second race for Division 2, the partially reversed grid race. It means that the front of the grid, we have Simon Cole with Brad Smith, then Eric Forstrom and Luke GARRETT, Adam Bidds and Paul RIVETT row 3, John Bowler and Steve Powell 1 and 2 in race 1, starting on row 4. John Powell, Jim Bennett and Trevor Martin back on the grid in this one, so all 11 trucks are getting ready to race. Away we go. Good start by Trevor Martin at the back, but it's Simon Cole that leads. Luke GARRETT round the outside line. Eric Forstrom in orange and white is third as they go down to Riches. This is coming up towards the corner where we had the shenanigans on race 1. Luke GARRETT is clear of that. Paul RIVETT is in second place. So great start from the Tacosys truck, which goes very, 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 very deep into the hairpin. And Simon Cole back into P2, but Paul RIVETT gets his foot down on the dirt, comes back, I think maybe clattered Steve Powell there, who's dropping back. Steve Powell was looking quick, the winner of race 1, starting in 8th place for this one, and this has left Luke GARRETT clear and down the road, the championship leader, has a 47-point lead. Steve Powell managed to take 4 points out of that in race number 1, but it doesn't look like Steve's going to be able to repeat that in this one, and it's unusual with this being the reverse grid race, seeing Luke Garrett starting towards the front. Brad Smith up ahead of Paul Rivett. Adam Bint was good value in race number 1, getting very sideways, especially here. Runs a little bit wide, but not sideways as he was in race number 1, so maybe Binty's truck a little bit more stable side by side here. Brad Smith on the dirt, not good for him. Paul Rivett going through. Binty now challenging Brad Smith, but Paul Rivett going through and running well. There's Jim Bennett in the number 28, started outside of the reverse part. We used to reverse the whole grid, but now it's the top 8 that gets switched around. I think Jim doesn't mind that too much. Talking to him earlier on in the meeting, Simon Cole passed by Paul Rivett being left, and Simon Cole slowing dramatically. The beast is not behaving herself again. Simon Cole, such a shame to see. Had a finish in race number 1, but Simon Cole looks like it's curtains for him. Paul Rivett, bodywork flapping on the 22 truck. Brad Smith next, then Steve Powell coming back into it after the little bit of contact on the way out from the hairpin, having a good nibble here at Brad Smith. He's on the inside line. I think he's going to make it, or is he? No, Brad gets a faster sweep into Coram and maintains the position. This is why we love the reverse grid races. Look at Luke Garrett, he's steaming away with this one. Luke did seem a little bit under the weather in race number 1, was involved in that skirmish going up towards the hairpin, but recovered to finish, had a good 5th place finish, which is valuable points for him. As the 2 bonneted trucks get stuck in, Eric Forstrom, the Finnish driver, having a look on the outside line of former champion Adam Bint. Comes Paul Rivett across the line. Steve Powell makes up another place. Powell running well here, then Brad Smith. Forstrom still dicing hard with Binty, and I think Eric's got that move done. He's clear, he's up ahead of the black bonneted truck. So some really good action going on to sort the field out here. See Trevor Martin at the back of shot. Has Trev had a bit of a problem? Lost a bit of time. Certainly been struggling with his motor this weekend so far. Didn't make it out for race number 1, but if he finishes here, he'll bag at the very least 5 points. It'll be 6 now, won't it? Because we've lost Simon Cole having had issues. Here is Luke Garrett, though, the race leader, who's got away. John Bowler 2nd, Paul Rivett in 3rd, Steve Powell 4th. And then a little bit of a gap back to Brad Smith in 5th place in the 11-point slot. Championship-wise, a point between Bowler and Rivett. And John Bowler will extend that again, unless Paul Rivett gets the fastest lap, in which case he will, and he's on for the fastest lap at the moment as we watch Trevor Martin coming through Coram. Trevor in the Scania, and having a little bit of a lonely time of it at the moment. One of the older trucks in the championship, goes along centre straight, but still working hard to try and pick up the points as Luke Garrett comes through Nelson Corner, heading down towards Bombhole. Careful not to run too far. Track limits being an MSV circuit being watched as the 41 truck parked up. Steve Powell 4th place at the moment, so Powell a win in race 1. I don't think on the timing screen's got the pace to catch Paul Rivett. So Rivett and John Bowler, the men who are looking like the most consistent. Powell running a little bit wide there, fires up some dirt. Luke Garrett continues on his way in the lead, goes out of shot. John Bowler 2nd. There is the black and light blue truck, the Tacosys WDE Motorsport prepared machine of Paul Rivett, and then Steve Powell in 4th. This to me looking relatively settled. We've got Brad Smith in 5th place. It's unusual to have and now we've got Adam Bint back in front of Eric Forstrom. John Powell is next after a problematic race 1 where he had a pit stop. So John's going to be on for a few more points in this one. On to the last lap. It's Paul Rivett with the fastest lap. That was on the last tour, but the championship leader, Luke Garrett, who I've got to say has not looked in dominating form, has, I mean, how can you say that, actually, thinking about it, because he's a good 7 seconds clear, but in terms of the overall weekend, has not looked at his strongest, but he's still picking up points, Luke Garrett. Steve Powell in 4th. still trying to close in on Paul Rivett. Riv's got the fastest lap, another podium for him. Riv, remember, trying to get up into 4th in the championship, but he's got John Bowler ahead of him. That battle, I think, is going to continue throughout the weekend. Binti up ahead of Eric Forstrom. Eric running in 7th place. John Powell not that far behind as well. A reminder, sadly, for Simon Cole that the beast is parked up, couldn't make it back to the paddock, which is a major shame. I hope that's not terminal and that we see him out for the remaining 2 races. But the reigning champion, Luke Garrett, very much on his way to a reverse grid race win. Steve Powell will again in 4th position. The gap will go back to 51 points as it was coming into the meeting. So all Steve's hard work in race number 1 to try and close in on this man Luke Garrett is very much undone. Garrett, the man from Bradstock, Garrett Truck Sport MAN, on its way down towards the checkered flag along Centre Straight. John Powell still busy trying to close in on Eric Forstrom, but there's the win. Luke Garrett takes the win. 2nd position, a wee way back in the 14 machine, is John Bowler. Another great result for John Bowler, takes 2nd. Paul Rivett on the podium again for 3rd. Cracking race then for the Division 2 boys. Luke Garrett takes the win. John Bowler 2nd from Paul Rivett and Steve Powell. And Brad Smith and Adam Bin, Eric Forstrom, John Powell, Jim Bennett and Trevor Martin complete the finishers.
For some reason I'm a little bit off the pace round here at the moment. I don't really know why, so I know I had to get in front as fast as I could, so I just tried the best I could to get to the front. I could see them in the mirrors, but see they weren't gaining on me, so I just backed off a little bit, obviously just trying to preserve a little bit of the tyres and yeah, look after the truck.
Yeah, no, dead happy with that. I think the lads were through on the walk, so we were gaining on him, but yeah, good result both races.
Yeah, so the start was fantastic, you know. Luke got a great start in front of me, and I managed to wind the boost up on the Takis' truck, follow him around the outside at the first corner, and we were 1-2 heading down to the hairpin. But the only problem I had then was I just couldn't stop it. Almost ran wide off the circuit, and as I was coming back round, I think tagged by someone from behind. It was sideways one way, then the other, and yeah, managed to come home in 3rd, so and fastest lap again. So considering the issues we've got, I'm really happy actually with the results.
Tom, fantastic to see you here, but a different truck to where we saw you at Donington Park.
Yeah, basically Ryan Smith, the British Champions truck, come up for sale, and again there's a shortage of Group 1 trucks in the paddock, and I was nervous that it would go abroad, and of course it takes a bit of time to build these things, so I bought it, and part of the deal was again I get a wee shot of it at Penbury, so and it comes out a corner faster than mine, and it just felt a bit more comfortable. So I bought it essentially to improve my own, driving ability.
How are you finding the overall learning experience of truck and track?
I was quite pleased this morning. There was only half a second between the last 5 drivers, so we all seem to qualify within 2 minutes 28 seconds. So generally quite happy at this level of truck racing.
Race 2 for Division 1, the first of our reversed grid races, and it is Ryan Smith, race 1. We're going to start at the back, the front of the grid, the man we've just heard from, Tom O'Rourke on the outside of the front row, Ricky Collett to his inside, Mark Taylor and Ray Coleman row 2, then John Newell and David Jenkins, Ryan Smith, as we said, completing the grid. But in yellow, poleman Richard Collett, who qualified 3rd this morning, so looking pretty good, as down the inside line goes Mark Taylor on the inside of Tom O'Rourke. Right round the outside goes Ray Coleman, challenging for 2nd place. Coleman, I think, has got 2nd. Yes, he has. So it's Collett, Coleman, Mark Taylor in 3rd place. Taylor is 3rd in the championship, remember. In towards the hairpin. Richard Collett was looking very good in this part of the circuit in race number 1. Managed a couple of passes. Looks very good there again. As at the back of the grid, we've got the 2 MV commercial owned machines, and it's Ryan Smith getting up ahead of Tom O'Rourke. Tom did a super job in race 1. his best lap time, 8/10 quicker than he managed in qualifying. So really learning the machine well. A little bit of sideways momentum, or movement we should say, from Ray Coleman, who is in second place. Coleman harrying Richard Collett as they come down to Agostini. I think Taylor is going to be passed by Jenkins on the inside line. The digraph high-ab machine goes through on the inside line. Richard Collett is under attack from Ray Coleman, who goes through in the Lantern number 2 truck. Coleman through into the lead. Our second different leader. Richard Collett down to second. Third is David Jenkins. Fourth place, Mark Taylor. Taylor will be looking in his mirrors because John Newell is there, the man challenging him for third in the championship, particularly coming into this race. Remember, Newell had two of the 4 points now as Coleman goes wide. Collett's back in front. There's a gap. David Jenkins sees the gap, dives for it, can't quite do it, backs out of it, wants to bring the truck home on track. Very nearly had enough momentum to go through, but it's Ray Coleman in second place, David Jenkins third, and Richard Collett the race leader. Superb shot as they come along the Bentley straight. Coleman looking like he might have a good go on the inside line, but as Collett turns in, you can see that he's ahead. And now round the outside goes Dave Jenkins, which converts to the inside line for Nelson. So well read by David Jenkins, a classic piece of truck racing from the former champion. Goes through into P2. Coleman next up. Now on the inside line of his teammate goes Ryan Smith past Mark Taylor, and that's going to open up the door for John Newell to try and go through as well. Taylor nips across, grabs the line before Newell can make hay in the sunshine there. And that battle is all about third place in the championship between those. But it's Collett out front, Dave Jenkins in second. Are we going to see a Rick Collett win here? Jenkins looks like he's on a bit of a mission though, to be fair. Out of Murray's, along centre straight, very slightly uphill. Then there's a brow about halfway along the main straight, and then it's a slight downhill run again in towards Richie's, the first corner, the right-hand bend, virtually 90 degrees, but it's got a fair flow to it, which means that you can, if you're brave enough, pull off a pass around the outside line, as we saw Ray Coleman doing on lap number 1. Then it's a short straight run down to the Wilson hairpin. It used to be known as Montreal, but renamed out of respect to the late great single-seater racer Justin Wilson. Now as up into the lead, got his nose in front, but the outside line beckons at Palmer. That's Dave Jenkins in black challenging for the lead. In yellow it's Richard Collett still there, but Dave Jenkins, that was another great move, a second move around the outside line. Dave Jenkins does not care for racing protocol about, you know, the old boys of racing will say it's not the racing line, you need to go inside. Jenkins doesn't care about that. 2 passes, both for podium positions, both on the outside line, one into Brundle, one into and out of Palmer corner, as Ray Coleman is passed now by Ryan Smith. John Newell still all over the back of Mark Taylor, Newell in the blue 18, and then Tom O'Rourke not being left by these guys either. Remember, this is Tom O'Rourke's third meeting in the Truck Championship, made his debut at the Nürburgring away day in Germany, raced with us at the Convoy in the Park, but this is his first meeting in the new truck, so he's familiarising himself with the new truck, which you heard in the interview he was very, very happy with before he went out to race, and doing superb work, the MV Commercial boss, to support the British Truck Racing Association Championship for this year. Very much appreciated by everybody in the paddock. So David Jenkins the leader, and has pulled out a big advantage already over Richard Collett in second place. So Collett's thoughts of a win, I think, have gone out of the window now, and with that white number 1 menacing him, he'll be worried about maybe losing out on second place, if not perhaps on a podium, because Ray Coleman's behind him. But remember, Collett's seen off Coleman once so far in this race, so we need to focus on the number 1 of Ryan Smith, championship leader, to 306 points, playing 277, second place in the series, David Jenkins at the moment, and Ryan won't want to lose a single point to Dave Jenkins out front. Ryan setting some good lap times, but it's the digraph high-ab track of Jenkins who is still there. Collett not making life easy here for Ryan Smith, and I know Ryan will welcome the return to form for Rick Collett now as John Newell challenges the third place man in the championship, side by side along centre straight. Job to know where to look here, because we've got Rick Collett still defending. Ryan's going to have a look up the inside line, goes back to the sweep. This is to gain momentum on the exit of the corner as much as anything. Collett, I think, perhaps going a little bit wide there. Still got the Taylor's truck in the mix as well, up ahead of John Newell. We'll watch Rick Collett now under pressure as they come in towards the hairpin. Ryan Smith still in third. Dave Jenkins still a little way ahead now, and there's a little nibble of the inside line here, and more momentum for Ryan Smith, who grabs the inside on the exit of the hairpin. It's the outside run here. This is where we saw Dave Jenkins go ahead of Richard Collett, but Richard Collett a little bit more determined this time, and Ryan Smith just can't quite get that number 1 white truck through. Now switches, looks at the inside line. This is potentially a classic Snet pass. No, he's given up on that. Runs wide, coming down into Agostini. Is he going to try the outside line or go for the cutback on the run up to Hamilton? Get a better exit of the corner. That doesn't work either, and Ray Coleman's coming in the mix, although now it does, because Ryan Smith's got a good foot in the door as they go into Hamilton. Smith grabs second position from Richard Collett. Collett down to third. Ray Coleman will be up and challenging him, but that was hard work for Ryan Smith. That's why he is a double champion in truck racing. Ryan Smith did all the hard work. He kept at it. He would not let second position get away from him, and eventually makes it pay, getting past Richard Collett, who, remember, he's still running in third. That's where he qualified in the first track session of the weekend, so he could still have the confidence to take third place, even though he's got Ray Coleman right behind him in the lantern number 2. John Newell is next up, so John Newell looking pretty handy, up ahead of Mark Taylor at the moment, maybe to claw that gap in third in the championship table down to a solitary point here at the moment. Could equal him if he got the fastest lap, but the fastest lap of the race is going to be between, I think, realistically, David Jenkins and Ryan Smith, and the battle is on for the lead because Smith has caught Jenkins and he's all over the back of him. Superb race going on in between these two, and how on earth did Ryan Smith get that gap down? This is not a familiar truck to him, but they've been working on it over the course of the weekend, working on the setup, and now he's got the inside line. Doesn't work. Jenkins nips across, and now we've got Ryan Smith to the outside line as they come along the straight to the flag, and Jenkins takes the race win. Jenkins the winner, Ryan Smith in second. Third place, a little way back, is Richard Collett, a return to the podium for the 95 truck. That's going to be good news for truck racing. Mark Taylor is next up from Ray Coleman, and then it is Tom O'Rourke. John Newell back in 7th, confirmation of the result. The extra point for fastest lap in that one going to Ryan Smith, who was just picked for the win.
Great to see you back on the podium. Tell us about that race.
Oh yeah, well, obviously starting from pole, I had a good advantage, but I couldn't keep Ryan or Dave behind. I tried, but they just got that little extra on me. I don't know. Need to work on that now.
Good to get some mileage out of the truck though, and podium mileage is even better.
Yeah, but mileage on the truck, you're right. After Donington's disaster, we're running sweet again now, so hopefully we should have more podiums now.
The third Division 2 race about to get underway, and this one is fastest off the front, so the grid positions were qualified for. Paul RIVETT making it a double pole. Steve Powell to his outside. Luke Garrett and John Bowler on the second row of the grid. Decent lead in the championship for Luke Garrett, 50 points. He starts on row 2 of the grid on the inside in the green and white 42, but here we go, lights out, and John Bowler bowling down the outside line of Steve Powell. It's going to be 3 wide into Riches. Is this going to end in tears, we ask ourselves? And at the moment they're all okay. That was great truck racing from the field, and it's poleman Paul RIVETT leading, John Bowler second, Luke Garrett in third place, Adam Bint dicing for fourth with Steve Powell, who guns down the inside line. Powell, the race 1 winner, second in the championship. I tell you what, Binty's got his nose in front here, trying to run around the outside line. Good racing from Adam Bint. Gets the better of Steve Powell, who drops back just a little bit as they come out of the hairpin. Binty with a great view of Luke Garrett. 3 champions in together there. Luke Garrett, Adam Bint and Steve Powell. It's Paul RIVETT out front. John Bowler, what a start it was from John, and all over the back of him at the moment is Luke Garrett. Luke jinks to the inside line, has a look, hard on the brakes, doesn't feel there's room, doesn't want to lose any of that 50-point lead that he's got. Remember, if he had a non-finish, potentially that's 15 points out of the 50. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it would be a fair old dent in that championship lead disappearing. If he doesn't make a pass, it's only a single point loss because it's 1 point per place. But he'll just bide his time, work out where perhaps he is quick enough to maybe have a go at John Bowler as the race progresses. Binty still in fourth. So coming down towards Williams Corner again, Luke Garrett, you can see the cab's body language of the truck. He's really going for it. You saw him locking up hard on the brakes down into Agostini earlier on, rather than go for the lunge down the inside line of John Bowler. More for you from Snet after the break. Here's the battle then for second place. Luke Garrett still chasing John Bowler, and this is really taking the pressure off Paul Rivett. Garrett's going to have a look down the inside line as it comes to Riches, but John Bowler's got it covered again. He does not want to let the championship leader through, and this is bringing Adam Bint into the mix as well. Eric Forstrom chasing Steve Powell. Then it's Brad Smith, Trevor Martin in 8th place. Luke Garrett under massive pressure now from Adam Bint. Binty, having seen Garrett appear in front of him. Luke dropping away, runs a little bit wide there. Rare mistake from Luke Garrett. Binty not quite close enough to get past. Still got Luke Garrett, well, Luke still having the momentum there as they go down into Palmer, which is where they are now. But the race leader is Paul Rivett. John Bowler trying to close down it. Now, has Luke Garrett dropped back, or has John Bowler pulled away? And possibly closing in. Steve Powell is passed by Eric Forstrom. Powell drops a place. Eric Forstrom coming through. Eric having a good run in the Sisu, the Finnish driver. And Steve Powell not looking as sharp, sadly, as he did in race number 1. He's got Brad Smith right behind him now, as Luke Garrett has now dropped Adam Bint again. But you can see there's a little bit of a gap between, and going off wide again. Luke Garrett is off on the dirt. Binty nips through on the inside line. Luke Garrett not looking happy this weekend. Binty was there and pops through on the inside line. So it's Paul Rivett leading. John Bowler is in 2nd place, and now Adam Bint is up into 3rd. Eric Forstrom 4th. A changing complexion to this race. The leaders come down towards us. So it's Rivett lead. John Bowler is closing, there's no doubt about that. Bowler is closing in on Paul Rivett, and he's setting very fast lap times. Problems for Steve Powell, who is slowing up. That's a shame to see. Luke Garrett, though, continues on. He was 5th in race number 1, Luke Garrett. Took a win in race 2. By his own admission, the truck not as sharp as it has been at previous meetings, but yet he's still banging in those point-scoring finishes, and that's going to be absolutely key to the championship, particularly with the likes of Steve Powell struggling, possibly heading towards a retirement. We'll have to wait and see. John Bowler trying everything to close in on Paul Rivett. Here we come. Along centre straight and across the line. It's Paul Rivett. Still there, John Bowler trying to hunt him down and close down. Marginally the quicker driver of the two at the moment. Jim Bennett, 8th place at the moment. Jim, we've lost both Trevor Martin and Steve Powell out of the race, and that's John Powell, Steve's brother, in 7th position, and Jim having another good point scoring run here. Jim trying to close in on the top 10 in the championship. There is Steve Powell. Said we've lost him, and he's just trying to nurse the truck round into pit lane, which he's done. So fair play, Steve Powell, rather than leave the truck out on the track and maybe cause a stoppage, has managed to nurse that machine home and into retirement. Battle for the lead now, down the inside line, throwing it down the inside line is John Bowler. Bowler really going for it. Rivett is forced off the track and in the dirt. Side by side they go. John Bowler's got the lead. Paul Rivett's down to 2nd. So Bowler is the new race leader. Incredible stuff from John Bowler, who started this race 4th on the grid. Paul Rivett started on pole, and it's Bowler. Are we going to see another third different race winner now? We probably will, because Rivett's coming back, and in Paul Rivett looking on the inside line. Barely room. Rivett, though, will try and squeeze through. Bit of bodywork goes for a Burton, and Rivett squeezes past. And now look at the front of John Bowler's truck now. It looks slightly deranged as Rivett comes through. Now, was that from the earlier contact that we saw? Here we come, down into the left-hander. The door is hanging off that truck. We might get a black and orange meatball flag for John Bowler to come in, but let's hope they play it out to right the way through to the end of the race. It's Bowler out front, Paul Rivett in P2. What a physical race these two have had. We used to talk about Paul's Renault Clio Cup days being physical, but the truck racing has been as well. Paul hasn't given up the opportunity of challenging for the lead, so Rivett all over the back of John Bowler at the moment. John looked quicker at one stage, but now it looks like Paul Rivett is quicker as they run along the straight. John Bowler the race leader. Here we come, on to the last lap. Both of these machines look like they've been in a real old battle. Luke Garrett, 6th place, so on for decent points again. Brad Smith trying to hunt him down. I beg your pardon, it's Brad in 6th place, Luke Garrett in 5th. So Luke's still nursing the 42 truck a little bit, but he's got a bit of a gap over Brad Smith. But on the clock from the last couple of laps, Brad is closing in, the Unity truck closing in as they go down into Rich's corner once again. Jim Bennett back in 8th place. So Jim on again for a few championship points, as is John Powell up ahead of him. But this is the last lap, and it's John Bowler out front. Paul RIVETT in 2nd place. I think this one, RIVETT gets it all sideways there, really driving his heart out, as of course is John Bowler out front, but can't close in. And John Bowler, this has been a superb race between these two. I get the feeling it will go to the clerk of the course with the contact that we've had, and the race fans have been royally entertained. Brad Smith's got past Luke Garrett now, so Brad Smith 5th, Luke Garrett there in 6th place, but again still picking up useful championship points. Remember, his main rival Steve Powell is out of this race, so whatever points Luke Garrett will get here will be a big bonus. And are we going to see a change for 2nd position in the championship before the end of the meeting if Brad Smith can close up? So it's John Bowler in the lead, has now got a little bit of a gap over Paul RIVETT in 2nd place. I'm sure they're both going to wind up in front of the clerk of the course after this. So Bowler in the DAF ahead of the MAN of Paul RIVETT. Eric Forstrom is next up now from Adam Bint. So the Finnish driver on for a maiden podium of the weekend. From our point of view though, whether post-judicial it will be John or Paul taking the win. It's a 3rd different winner in Division 2, again showing how competitive this category is. But we'll call it on the road, and it's John Bowler out front. There is Paul RIVETT running in 2nd position. Watch for the checkered flag. John Bowler coming uphill along centre straight. There's the checker. Bowler takes the win. Paul RIVETT 2nd. Eric Forstrom is in 3rd. The orange truck was closing up as well. Adam Bint in black is in 4th position, with Brad Smith back in 5th. Post-race judicial saw Paul RIVETT indeed granted the win. John Bowler 2nd from Eric Forstrom and Adam Bint. Brad Smith next up from Luke Garrett, John Powell and Jim Bennett.
Talk us through how the damage that we've got happened, and what was your reaction when you got out of the truck and saw that?
Well, I saw it going round the door coming, but I got into a corner a little bit too quick. Between 2 corners, me and Paul had a bit of contact, and that's the result.
So yeah, good 3 podiums so far. We're going well and enjoying it. You know, the Tacosis truck's been fantastic again all weekend, and you know, we just keep working away and improving it.
The 3rd race for Division 1 was fastest off the front, which meant that David Jenkins and Ryan Smith renewed their battle, and they went at it hammer and tongs, as they have been doing all season. John Newell slotting into 3rd place in the early stages, whilst the 2 Arch Championship rivals battled hard. Tom O'Rourke used this race to climb up to joint 9th in the standings, tying now with Stuart Oliver, but it was David Jenkins just ahead of Ryan Smith at the checkered flag. John Newell took 3rd. Fastest lap again going to Ryan Smith means that he was equal on points from the race with David Jenkins. So here's how they finished. Jenkins from Smith, John Newell in 3rd, pulling a point back on Mark Taylor for 3rd in the championship. Ray Coleman next from Richard Collett and Tom O'Rourke.
Great race result for us. The boys worked really hard between the races. We had a little bit of business to sort in the steward's room, so that took the focus off a little bit, but the boys applied themselves, sorted the truck out and gave me what I needed, and still probably 3/10 off my optimal lap time. If we can find those 3/10, then that will make us untouchable.
John, congratulations, another podium, more points in the bag, but it looks a little bit lonely in those closing stages.
Yeah, it was. I thought they were going to be a bit more tangly between front 2 at start, so I was just sitting on back of them waiting for it to happen, and it never happened, so we just kept the pace and just kept away from others behind us, and it was quite an easy race really.
Jim, first time we've had a chance to catch up with you this year, and as is tradition we like to chat to your home event. How's the season going for you so far?
Not too bad. We're sort of roughly in the middle of the standings, so we're quite happy really. You know, old driver, old truck. we finished most races, so I can't complain. We've got great camaraderie with the other drivers, and yeah, we have a good battle. And normally I tend to be at the back of the field at the end, but I enjoy it so much it's well worth it.
The man we've heard from there, Jim Bennett, starts on pole position in the combined grid. Division 2's at the front. Jim Bennett next to John Powell, Luke Garrett, Brad Smith, row 2, Adam Bint and Eric Forstrom next from John Bowler, Paul RIVETT and Trevor Martin. Steve Powell and Simon Cole, of course, early retirements from the meeting. Division 1 headed by Tom O'Rourke from Rick Collett, then Ray Coleman, Mark Taylor, John Newell, Ryan Smith and David Jenkins. This one a pursuit race for the Division 1 trucks who will chase the Div 2 boys, and it's John Powell that leads, 3 wide down into Riches, Brad Smith on the outside line, Jim Bennett on the inside. The meat in the sandwich is Luke Garrett. Into Riches they go. Garrett, I think, has made it past Jim Bennett. He has round the outside line as well. As Bennett goes Adam Bint, but it's John Powell the leader. Luke Garrett looks up to try and pass John Powell. Here come the Division 1 runners ready for their start. Tom O'Rourke on the inside. Richard Collett must fancy his chances of another podium here. Has a good outside run into Riches, does Richard Collett. Side by side with Tom O'Rourke. The great thing about truck racing for new drivers is that if you're new and you get in the reverse part, you get the opportunity to start off the front. Adam Bint goes sideways, a little bit squirrely from Luke Garrett, who's looking for the lead. Has the speed down into Agostini. Garrett, classic pass there, inside line. John Powell relegated to second. I was beginning to think if John Powell could hang on for the first couple of laps, you might see a 4th different winner in Division 2. So it's Powell in second, Luke Garrett, who again is pulling points out of the bag here when the truck's not at 100%. Here come the Division 1 runners into Agostini. Mark Taylor on the inside line is third. Great job by the white truck of Tom O'Rourke, who stayed in second position for 4 or 5 corners now. John Newell is on the grass there, finds himself at the back of the group. We've got the number 2 machine of Ray Coleman ahead of David Jenkins as the leaders make their way down the Bentley straight for the first time. I think we've lost Eric Forstrom. Yes, there is Eric, sadly out of the race. Welcome back to Snetterton. We're looking at the battle for second place. It's John Powell second, Paul RIVETT third, then Brad Smith in 4th place. Luke Garrett the race leader. There is Luke just going through shot. This is the Division 2 battle. Division 1's trying to close in. You can see that Richard Collett has very nearly caught some of the podium runners in Division 2, and we're early doors in this one. We have lost Eric Forstrom. Sadly, you saw that just before the break. Paul RIVETT piling the pressure on. RIVETT looking to maintain a 100% podium finishing record this weekend. Had 1 win as well, but 3 different winners from Division 2. Superb racing as ever. Brad Smith next up. There is Richard Collett, the lead driver, broken away from the Division 1 runners, so looking very good. Mark Taylor in second, David Jenkins third, then the number 2 truck of Ray Coleman, and red flags because you'll notice an omission from that group is Ryan Smith, who is off the track with Eric Forstrom, and the officials have decided to stop the race, clear the stricken machines, and then we'll have a restart. So Luke Garrett, the race leader, a second go here, but look at John Bowler again, bowling down the outside line. Bowler by name, Bowler by nature, up into P2, challenging Luke Garrett. John Bowler wants to grab a win if he possibly can, and it's Luke Garrett that gets the better start. Here come the Division 1 boys. This is going to be a reduced race distance. I'll be surprised if we see a Division 1 truck win overall, because they haven't got as much time now to be able to close down on and indeed pass the Division 2 runners. But what a spectacle for the race fans here at Snetterton. And a bit in the mix. You can see the Div 1 boys side by side for the lead. Mark Taylor challenges round the outside of Rick Collett for the lead, but Collett is a wily driver. He knows that he's got the momentum, but so too has Taylor. Taylor's got the lead. Division 2 lead, an overall race lead at the moment with Luke Garrett. Here they come down into Agostini. It's John Bowler in second, very, very rapid off the start. John Powell is third at the moment, and Luke Garrett here, despite, again, I make no apology for saying this, not having an on-song truck, could find himself bagging a second win of the meeting. Dave Jenkins exploring the opportunities to get up into third. Rick Collett looking on the inside line now of Mark Taylor to challenge for the Division 1 lead. Here are the Division 2 runners. Luke Garrett leads, John Bowler second. Adam Bind back in fourth place. Paul Rivett is fifth. Jim Bennett still there as well. And we wait for the leading runners to come through. It is Rick Collett now in lead position. Mark Taylor will try and fight back. Ray Coleman is third. Runs a bit wide there, does Coleman, and that could open up the door for Dave Jenkins, who we've already seen pull off an outside pass on the way down into the corner where the Division 2 runners are. So Garrett's still there. John Bowler challenging hard. Paul Rivett now I think is in fourth place, so 1 place shy of a 100% podium record. Here as Luke Garrett runs a little bit wide. John Bowler trying to hunt him down for the overall lead. This is an absolute cracker, isn't it? You've got 2 races going on, and both halves of the field, remember, started from reverse grid positions. So this is the magic of truck racing at its very best. Garrett in front, John Bowler second. Little bit of a gap now over Paul Rivett, who's got up into third. John Powell fourth. Adam Bind in fifth position from Brad Smith. Jim Bennett still with Brad Smith as well. Good race here from Jim. Here is our race leader in Division 1, Richard Collett from Mark Taylor. Then it is David Jenkins. Across the line they go. Jenkins here with an opportunity to slash 15 points. Maybe 16 if he gets the fastest lap and the win away from Ryan Smith's championship lead. Smith on 3:36 by my maths coming into this race from David Jenkins 3:07, Mark Taylor 2:38, John Newell 2:34. It looks like Mark Taylor's going to have the upper hand there. Division 2 very close indeed, apart from Steve Garrett being ahead of Steve Powell. Brad Smith is third on 2:35. Brad could go into second in the championship here, but Brad Smith on 2:35. John Bowler down the inside of Jim Bennett goes Richard Collett. Third, fourth and fifth in the Championship Division 2. Brad Smith 2:35, John Bowler 2:31, Paul Rivett 2:30. Very close for third place, the bronze medal position in Division 2. As we now look, Jim Bennett coming under pressure from David Jenkins. Jim knows that Jenks has got the quicker truck, leaves the door open. Great driving by Jim Bennett. And now side by side there, Ray Coleman nipping through on the inside line. Running a little bit wide is Mark Taylor. Good stuff from Ray Coleman. He's looking to try and get a podium this weekend as well. Haven't seen him up there so far. This could be the opportunity for him to do it. Richard Collett now the race leader in Division 1, but coming under pressure from David Jenkins. Jenks trying to close down on him to bag another win this weekend. There is Jenkins on the inside line of Brad Smith. Remember, the Division 1 boys have to deal with the Division 2 trucks up front as well as squabbling amongst themselves. It's multitasking for these drivers. Still Luke Garrett out front. Paul Rivett's got the fastest lap in Division 2. David Jenkins has fastest lap in Division 1. But it's Luke Garrett who is the race leader. Jenkins here trying to close down on Richard Collett. And we said that Collett was hopeful of a podium here from starting on the front row of the grid. Can he hold on and maybe take a Division 1 race win after all the problems he's had so far this year? It will be richly deserved. As out of Murray's corner once again comes Luke Garrett, the overall and Division 2 race leader. Paul Rivett in third. John Powell fourth in class at the moment in Division 2. Now Richard Collett, as you can see, will be to some extent looking in his mirrors at Jenkins, but also looking ahead at the Division 2 runners. John Newell getting stuck in. We're on to the last lap of this second half of the race. The red flagged first part gave us the grid for the second part as Adam Bind goes on the outside line. Richard Collett through on the inside. David Jenkins still pretty close. A few drivers picking up the last lap board. I think Luke Garrett should have done enough to take the overall win, although John Bowler still busy challenging him. As you can see now, this is the battle for the Division 1 win. Richard Collett out front with David Jenkins closing down. Jenks would dearly love that extra point. He's got the fastest lap at the moment. As Luke Garrett comes towards us ahead of John Bowler, you'd have to say it would have to be a major problem for Garrett to lose that. Loss of power, maybe a spin. We have seen him have issues at this meeting now as through go the Division 1 leaders past John Powell. Collett taking a nice tight line into Agostini. David Jenkins going wide, might give Jenks a bit of a run. Tail end happy there is Richard Collett, under massive pressure at the moment. Jenkins trying everything that he can to close in. Out of Hamilton, up to Oggie's corner. There is Jim Bennett. Jim running 7th position in Division 2. Going to pick up more good points here, and this is the battle for the Division 1 lead. Collett's still there. Jenkins closes up. Jenks again, as we said earlier in the meeting, won't want to risk losing 14 points by doing a rash move to challenge for the lead. I'm wondering where he's going to have the ability to go past. Here comes the outright leader, Luke Garrett out front. John Bowler is second. Paul RIVETT is a little bit distant, but still in 3rd place, and it's been a remarkable weekend for RIVETT. If he holds on where he is, it'll be 4 podia out of 4, and closing in on RIVETT, the Division 1 battle. Collett still there from David Jenkins. Looks like Collett might have got the measure of David Jenkins here to grab a win. So it's going to be 3 different winners in Division 2, 3 different winners this weekend in Division 1 as well. But look at John Bowler. John Bowler's having a go and closing up here on Luke Garrett. This could be about the run towards the checkered flag. Out of Murray's corner, he's chasing hard. Paul RIVETT, I think, is closing in as well. And now David Jenkins putting pressure on Richard Collett as they come up towards the checkered flag. Luke Garrett's held on to take the win. John Bowler second. Paul RIVETT will be third. Jenkins is having a go up to the flag, side by side, and Richard Collett takes his first win of the year from David Jenkins. What a finish to our Snetterton truck finale here. Superb racing from Division 1 and Division 2. Is how they finish. Garrett from Bowler and RIVETT. Richard Collett winning Division 1 from David Jenkins, and Ray Coleman on the podium. Then John Powell, Mark Taylor, John Neal, Tom O'Rourke, Adam Bibb, Brad Smith and Jim Bennett in 13th.
Luke, congratulations. Good way to finish the weekend. Obviously a shortened race, but a win, great point.
Yeah, it's been a bit of an up and down weekend for us, but yeah, to finish on a win is really good for us. John was catching me near the end, but then obviously because I seen the last lap board, I just backed off a little bit, obviously, because to be winning and make a mistake on the last lap would would be bloody shocking.
Good run to the end of the season, hopefully in planning. And what are your thoughts on Pembrey?
Looking forward to Pembrey. It's always a good track for us, Touchwood. And see how we go there. We've got Pembrey and then we've got Brands Hatch. And we'll also be at Zolder next weekend during the FIA round.
Ricky Collett, how good does it feel to be back on the top step of the podium?
Boom! Yeah, brilliant that. I knew I just had to keep him off with that lap. That's all I had to do. Yeah, that was great. That they told me on the radio Dave were coming. So I thought, no mistakes, just keep in front.
makes all the hard work worthwhile.
Yeah. I mean, the lads again during the thing we altered a lot of settings and it made it a lot better to drive. We still got some way to go because Dave did make some ground on me on that up the start-finish straight. But yeah, I just thought, don't make any mistakes now. Let's just get around this last corner and drag race to the line.
Nice one. Welcome back. We'll see you on the podium.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Ray, nice to see you back on the podium. Truncated race, but nonetheless gruelling, I dare say.
Yeah, no, it was good to be back on the podium. But yeah, it was hard. It was a hard race, especially with a break in between with a red flag. And then sitting there in the cab, it must have been, well, it seemed like hours, but probably 20 minutes. So it was absolutely melting out there. So it was good to get going again. But yeah, it was a good result. Happy with it.
Championship table looks like this. Ryan Smith just 14 points clear now of David Jenkins. Mark Taylor is still in third ahead of John Neal. Ray Coleman, the man we just heard from, in fifth. Richard Collett up into sixth. Division 2, Luke Garrett, 72-point lead now over joint second John Bowler and Brad Smith, with Paul RIVETT in fourth.
Well, there we are, the conclusion of another sensational round of truck racing for the 2019 MV Commercial British Truck Racing Association Championship. The race winners for our final combined race: Ricky Collett in Division 1, Luke Garrett the championship leader in Division 2. We're going to regroup at Pembrey in a few weeks' time, and we hope you'll join us there. Thanks for watching. See you next time.